Well, hello there, this is D, and welcome to Uneven. Haven't done one of these in a bit, just recording thoughts and experiences as I do on Uneven quite often. I've had my hands full with our new online community at uneven.life, if you want to check that out. Yes, I will always put a little plug in now and then for that because I want to encourage people to come in and join us. It's a great online community. We just started it. It's totally free through the end of the year. We got over 100 members already online, amazing interactions, video conferences. We're doing so much stuff on that site. Please come check it out. We'd love to see you. Again, it's at uneven.life. But that being said, and just a lot going on lately. Last night I did a live presentation for Benzo Warrior community. Please check them out too, benzowarrior.com. If you want to learn more about what they provide, great resources for benzodiazepine individuals. But I had a great time with people. We had I did about a 40-minute presentation, followed for like 70 minutes of Q&A, which I just love the Q&A, getting to talk to people and hearing comments and questions. And the time just flew by. 2 hours, boom, it was done. And those things just happen. They're great, and I really enjoy that. But we got that posted on our site if you want to check that one out. I like to do that, but it's been good. I got an interview scheduled for tomorrow for the Benzo Free podcast. And I thought I'd try to sneak in an episode today of Uneven because today's kind of a day off for me a little bit. My wife goes in for knee surgery this afternoon, and right now she's gone. She went to take our dog and drop our dog off at our in-laws' house, and so they can watch him for the day. Just makes things easier, and we'll be gone for a little bit with the surgery and everything. So they're going to watch him for a day or so, and then I'll pick up Murphy again tomorrow. But not too worried. It's not major surgery. It's some repair surgery she needs on her knee, and she's had surgery before. But it's still there's still that angst, that anxiety, the fear that something could go wrong or there could be a problem. And what do I do when I go through those periods? I talk to you. I get on here and we have a conversation. And I haven't done this in a little bit, and I miss it. I really do. I like doing these, and I'm going to start recording more of the video ones too, where I'm actually live on our Uneven site within the community, and I'll record some live ones for this Uneven podcast, which is our flagship podcast for that community. And I'll do some more of those, just videos, chatting with you, talking about different things. But I also still want to do some of these audio-only ones that are a little more intimate, a little more pensive, maybe a little more thoughtful, because I do think these are still important. There's an intimacy to an audio-only recording, I think, and conversation. And I know people have let me know that they really appreciate them and they've connected with them. And for myself, it's my own time of introspection. And it's kind of like letting you all in a little bit, kind of open up the doors, the hinge to the brain, and come on in and have a seat and see what crazy circus is happening inside here. But I know we all have that crazy circus happening inside our heads, and thus sometimes I think it's good to share that, to open the doors and let people experience it, to realize we all have that. We all have the crazy that goes on in the brain. We all have the psychosis that goes on in the brain. We all have the thoughts that, we never share with a single other person because how dare I think that thought, but yet we have those thoughts. I have them too. We're human. We're human, and we make mistakes. We have failures. We don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to say don't match up, but don't rise up, or I don't know. I have those things. I think of these cliched words, and I just want to roll them in, and sometimes they just roll off the tongue, and they're right there. And other times I get stuck, and I can't remember what that term is that I'm thinking of, but sometimes we don't meet the expectations we have for ourselves. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So today's a day of a little bit introspection, a little bit of anxiety. Last time my wife had some surgery, it took them a long time to wake her up, and it was not good. So I have that in the back of my head, and that's one of those things I worry about. So make sure that, of course, the anesthesiologist knows about that and is careful with the medication. I think she just had an adverse reaction to one of the medications that was given her, and so she just needs to be monitored a little more closely. But those are things to keep in mind, you know. Surgeries are pretty regular. Most of us have them, and I've had, surgery just recently, so a couple of them recently, so I've been through it. And it's just part of life now, especially as we age and as we fall apart. But when there's a possibility of something going wrong in our lives, it's always there. Thankfully, I'm doing better, doing a lot better than I was, which means not only has the nerve pain eased up on me, but the anxiety has eased too. And so I'm not as worried. I'm handling things a little better. And I can be a little stronger than for the people in my life, especially right now for my wife, which is always the goal, is to be strong for your loved ones, of course, when they're going through a change or a difficult time, or like this, a medical procedure. I think all of us want to be there for those we love when they need us. And I think that's important. I'm getting up and moving. I'm in my basement right now. It's semi-dark down here. There's a little light coming in through the windows. And I'm not at my desk. I'm just kind of sitting out in a chair, but it was really nice and quiet down here, and that's what I liked about it. But my furnace just kicked in, which is right behind me, and it's about to get pretty noisy down here. Here, I'll see if you can hear it. That's my furnace, so you probably hear that. So I'm actually going to now move away from that so I can talk to you without that much noise. I'm going to the deep, dark corner of my basement with very little light back here. The extra hum. I want to go upstairs, but then that's going to change the audio level, and it's all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I do want to do this in a couple parts, so I thought I'd record this morning and then record again after her episode to let you know that, after her procedure, to let you know that everything went great, and which I'm sure it will, and to walk you through the whole process. But I am going to go upstairs, which has its own sounds everywhere. So just take a walk with me as I go through my house. I spend a lot of time in that basement, but there's definitely sounds in the house right now, and the heat's kicked in. I'm going to go back to the bedroom where things might be a little quieter. I kind of like having this little handheld recorder because, I don't know, it's mobile, but it's also personal because I just get to take you along with me. And so I am now in the master bedroom, and I am going to lay down here with a pillow and finish our conversation. I know so many people try to get things just perfect, and with building this new studio I'm doing for our site, and because I'm doing more and more video events on the new Uneven community, as I do that, I got a little breath coming out. I went up the stairs, and I'm breathing a little bit. You notice that when you're recording podcasts, because I always let myself calm down before I start recording, because you get kind of breathy. Like when I'm taking a walk and I'm talking to you, I get breathy. And of course, breath comes through on these things, especially with a really sensitive mic. So I am trying to relax myself a bit so I'm not as breathy anymore. But just running up the stairs, not running, but coming up the stairs and walking around the basement there for a couple minutes got me breathy. So I got to get back in better shape. I do walk 2 to 4 miles a day, but that's my primary exercise right now, and I need to get some cardio back into it. But there, again, I take a tangent, which I do a lot. back to the subject at hand. Surgery is just a good example of events in our life. I've had 2 of them just recently. Last night I did a presentation live in front of, 50 people or so or whatever. I don't know, I think it was like 70 were signed up and I don't know how many attended or whatever. I don't know the actual number, about 50 or so. And had a chance to do that. And well, I'm pretty good at public speaking. It's never really been a core fear of mine. I'm pretty comfortable. Still, there's nerves going in. I want to do it right. I don't want there to be a technical issue. I want to make sure everything's, set up properly, that I didn't screw up my slides. I still think through some of the things that could go wrong. And today, with my wife going to surgery, I not only want to, of course, make sure everything's perfect so that everything goes smoothly, but also so that I do my job right as a husband. That I am there for her and getting the things she needs and taking care of her and making sure she's comfortable, and I do all that. And these aren't major life events. These are minor ones, relatively speaking. But they do create a little bit of anxiety in your life. And I notice that level of anxiety that hits as to also where I am in my state of mind and how I handle it. I'm doing better right now, and I'm handling this better right now, in part because I'm feeling better. I'm in a better state of mind. But also, another factor that I think plays in is I'm busy. My brain's been very focused lately on this new community I launched, and I spent a lot of time in there working on that. And a lot of time prepping new things from it and trying to get promotion for it and all this kind of stuff. And so my mind is there a lot. And it's busy and has stuff to do and something to focus on. In fact, we were talking in one of our anxiety live streams in the community the other day, actually about that, about being busy, about having purpose, about having your mind focused on something, and how important that is to give you something else to think about. Today I was planning on recording a podcast episode while my wife was in surgery. I thought this is a good way to occupy my mind. If she's going to go in there, it's 45-minute procedure or whatever, and I would maybe go take a walk and I'd talk to you and I'd record it live from there. I changed that thought and talking to you now only because my mother-in-law is going to join me up there, and we're going to grab some lunch while my wife's in having the procedure. So we're going to be doing that instead. So I thought maybe I record this now. So that's how that changed. But in all that to say is that one of the reasons for this was also to give me something else to do and occupy my mind. Now, that's great, and I think that's really helpful for a lot of us who do have those ruminations, those looping thoughts, that obsessive nature, which I am one of those. But as I mentioned many times on this and my other podcast, is that we do want to be careful. Distraction is a wonderful short-term solution for certain situations. I know this podcast isn't so much about benzos, it's about everything, but on the benzo side, and this crosses over to a lot of other things, we sometimes have extremely heightened states. Extremely heightened. And avoiding triggering things is a good thing to do, and also keeping your mind occupied on other things rather than dealing with what you're going through sometimes is needed. But it's also not a true long-term solution. I think we all know that. It's not a true long-term solution. And distraction's great short-term for things here and there, but we don't want to get caught doing that all the time. Keeping busy and not facing what you're going through eventually does, bite you in the ass at some point. It's just what it does. I did some of that with mourning for my parents, and it wasn't intentional. It's just how my mind works and how it processes things, that I try to get things done. There was too much for me to do with funerals and selling a house and cleaning out things and their care and bills and phone calls and just on and on and on. And it was good on the short term because it kept me busy and occupied. But not so good on the long term because I'd never really processed that. And I knew I was going to have to process that. And since then, in part, I have done processing on that. Although I know there's still plenty to come. Now 2 to 3 years past their passing. And that stuff's still there. And I think that's one of those things we have to process and pay attention to. But we got to be careful of being too busy, being too distracted, avoiding too much. Life comes at us with all kinds of messages. Ones that we perceive as positive, ones we perceive as negative. And I say perceive because most of the things that life throws at us aren't inherently good or bad. Some are, but most aren't. It's more how we interpret them. But we can't keep blocking and distracting ourselves forever. At some point, we want to get back into life. At some point, we need to deal with the emotions. At some point, we have to deal with the loss. At some point, we have to deal with what's going on right now in front of you. And learning to do that, having the mindfulness to do that, having that, being able to live more in that moment of dealing with what's happening right now, I do think is a really good direction to go. And that just comes back to the whole general balance of being human, is that sometimes we need distraction. Sometimes we just need acceptance. Sometimes we just need to dive into the moment and deal with it at the time. And sometimes just diving into those emotions, letting them engulf you, isn't as horrific as we think it's going to be. I've learned that one over the last several years. Sometimes feeling emotion, even negative emotion, is actually a good thing. Crying is a good thing. It actually feels good to let that out because it's been building up in us for so long. I know how healthy it is for me to let that out sometimes. And I've done that more than once. A couple times maybe on this podcast. Oh, but that brings me back to today. And I just thought, one of the things I do on this podcast is I record real life events. I don't want to overshare. And the last thing I do is overshare about somebody else's life. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you details about anything or recovery or whatever. I can share about myself and what I'm going through. That's okay. But I don't want to intrude on other people. I don't think that's right. But I do think sharing what I am going through sometimes connects with people, and it does seem to have that benefit of people understanding. And we've all been through difficult situations, difficult events, or anxiety causing events in our life, and this is one of those for me. This is one of those. I love my wife a lot, very much so, and I want to keep her around for a long time. So anything where that might be at risk, even in a very low risk status, like with this surgery, still is something that makes you think, gives you some pause, gives you some anxiety. And processing that, I think, is important. So I'm finding a balance. I'm talking to you, and I'm actually processing the thoughts. But I'm also talking to you, and it's also a form of distraction. See how I did that? But speaking of that distraction, our community is going great, and one of the things I wanted to mention about that is, and this feeds into our podcast here with Uneven is our flagship podcast for our new community. And we're going to be recording some of these live there. We're going to be recording things and talking about all different kinds of subjects. I still have the benzo-free podcast, and it's dedicated to benzos. Still be doing that once a month, maybe more, maybe twice a month. We'll see here or there. But I still want the Uneven one to be more of a weekly podcast, although I wasn't that way this last week or two, but I'm trying to. More frequent, and it's the flagship. And it covers sometimes some benzo stuff. I'm going to talk about it, but mostly it's anxiety. It's life. It's dealing with all the crap, all the shit that's out there. I said it. I got to remember that on this podcast, I'm allowed to curse when I want to, and I'm going to sometimes. I now have to mark that as having some language in it, but I don't care. I'm not letting that dictate what I say to you all, because again, this is about being raw and being real. But this podcast is about everything, and one of the things about our new community is we have spaces now, just not just for benzos and not just for anxiety. We've just added an antidepressant space for people who are having difficulty dealing with antidepressant medications, or coming off those drugs. And we're probably going to be adding another site for some other medications. So our site is focused on people who are struggling with something in life, struggling with a condition. Medication's a big factor we deal with. Anxiety is a big factor. Psych meds, all those things around there are definitely at a core of what we're doing. But even if you only have dealt with anxiety, I say only like it's some minor thing, but those of us who have dealt with that know it's not. We welcome you, because we have spaces, we have these subgroups, these sub areas for people to talk about the specifics of what they're going through. But we also get to work as a community as a whole. And that's something I've loved about this structure, is that we are a community of all the people struggling in life, and there's so much crossover, so much unifying ideas that come out of that that we can talk about and help people with, from the mindset standpoint, from the psychological standpoint, and deal with that stuff. But then we also have these spaces where people can talk about specific symptoms of ADs or pain, even pain stuff and stuff like that. And we can have those subgroups too. And I really like the structure that came out of it. So I don't know. I think this is really happening. I think this is starting to take off, and I'm really excited about it, and I hope you'll check it out. So I always sneak in another plug. I'm doing that because I really want this community to work. I'm passionate about it. I love it. And I'm loving working with you all. And if you're looking to have a conversation with me, if you want to get my feedback on something or ask me a question, this is where I'm at. I'm at uneven.life. That's where I spend the bulk of my time. That's where I'm answering questions. That's where I respond to comments. That's where I'm doing videos. I'm doing seminars. I'll be teaching courses starting next year on there. This is where I hang out. So if you want to chat with me, you want to get to know me, and especially not just me, but our other guides who are amazing on there, and all the other members on here. You want to get to know some more people, have conversations, talk through things. This is a great place to do it. So I hope you come check it out. See, there's that, closing out that plug. Is back to what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm distracting myself a little bit right now. That's what I do. I'm a little worried. I don't want to lose my wife. I know the chances of that are extremely extremely low. Just as if getting in the car and driving on the highway, I think most of us don't even think that, hey, there's actually a risk to you dying when you do that, or just being hurt when you do that. Cars are more dangerous than we give them credit for. Something we don't think about, but it's something we just have to do. So we do it daily, and we don't think about it until something goes wrong. Surgeries become like that somewhat, especially here in the U.S., where, they're frequent. We don't think about it too much, but we still realize there's always that chance. And I just want her to be okay. And I want her knee to start feeling better. And I'm hoping this does that. And I know it will. I know everything will be fine. But I still, you still have thoughts. We all still have thoughts. So how you doing? Say that. I can't say it like Joey Tribbiani. So how you doing? What is these? I can't do any accents for the life of me. Trust me, it is my worst. I cannot do it. But, how you doing? He would say on the show, and I know I can't mimic him, but on the TV show Friends, for those that remember that. But I often, move around on my thought patterns on these podcasts, and sometimes come back to just seeing how you're all doing. I know this podcast reaches more people that aren't just benzos, people who are ADs, antidepressants, people who are dealing with chronic pain, people who are dealing with fibromyalgia. I have some people on here that are struggling with that, and other MCAS, some other conditions. We have people who are just dealing with anxiety, and I want to say just, but I mean dealing with anxiety by itself, and GAD, or phobias, or something, or PTSD, or depression. For some of us, life's uneven. And that's, of course, where the podcast comes from. That's where the community name comes from. For some of us, it's a twofold approach here. For some of us, life is uneven, meaning we might be dealing with a little bit more than some other people. Maybe not, but maybe we are. And two, as how that hits us is also uneven. It's rarely consistent. We have good days and we have bad days. There's that roller coaster ride that so many of us go through. So life treats people in an uneven manner, and as it treats you, as it affects you, it's also uneven in its pattern. Hence, uneven. And that's what we talk about here. So I am going to wrap this section up here in a second. My wife will probably be home in a little bit after dropping Murphy off, my dog, off at our in-laws, my sister-in-law's house. And then I'm going to go get online, check out a few comments and stuff, talk to a few people through chat, and then we will head on up to the hospital for surgery. So I will check back in with you when I have more information or when I have a break and I can talk to you, and let you know how things go. I'm sure everything's going to be fine, but we just say that, don't we? Sometimes we just say that because we're not sure. We're not sure. We say that because we want to exude the confidence and we want to make it seem like not a big deal, because we want to have that positive energy going on. But I think you and I know better. Behind that in our brains, there's the worry. Those of us with anxiety worry. We're experts. We have a PhD in this. We know how to worry well. Well, my mom was good at that, and I picked up a lot of that from her. It does seem to run through generations sometimes. So I say everything's going to be okay, and I have confidence everything's going to be okay, and yet I still worry. And I thought maybe, just maybe, you've been through something like that too, and I'd bring you along for the ride. So, everything's going to be okay, and I'll chat with you in a little bit. Thanks. Hello there. I am in the car, just sitting outside of the surgery center. They just wheeled my wife back in for surgery, only 3.5 hours late. They got backed up by some other cases, so that happens sometimes. It's not what we want, but she laid in that bed for 3 hours, waiting for them to get started, over 3 hours, to waiting for them to come in and take her. But finally they did, so hopefully everything's going to go okay. I'm sure it will. I mentioned that before, didn't I? I'm still saying that, though. I'm still saying that. But with this comes some introspection, which is the word of the day, I think. Some introspection, and to think about things that are valuable in your life and things that are important to you, and how we deal with events in our life. And I think that's a factor sometimes. One of the things I don't know that either one of us really thought about before coming here was that the last time we were in a hospital setting was with my wife's father, who, at the beginning of discovering his cancer, and which of course led to his end, to the end of his life. And so a lot of emotions tied to being back in a hospital setting, as environments will do for us. It's often hard for us to return to places where very deep emotional scars have been linked. Hospitals are one of those that are quite common. And so this was hard, and especially when you have to wait 3.5 hours for the procedure to start, laying in a hospital bed and remembering your late father. That's got to be hard, and that's hard on anybody. So watching that is difficult, but I know it's a process. It's a process so many of us go through as we try to move forward, try to grieve, try to adjust, try to process what we've been through in our lives. I do notice that I try to look for the positive in many things in life. Positive, of course, of this is that my wife will hopefully feel better and be able to move better once the surgery is done and her healing has happened. But there's other aspects to this type of thing. And even to waiting 3 hours in a hospital room. And that is, sometimes we forget to slow down. I know that's been me lately a lot. I've been so busy with our new community, with all the work going on there, with research, with everything else, and also with my wife and trying to manage the house and helping everybody out, helping my mother-in-law out and stuff like that. Just been a lot of stuff on our plate. And sometimes you get in that mode of being always on, always moving forward, always looking for the next thing. The checklist mentality, I think, might be one thing to look at. Is I feel like I'm in a chronic checklist lately. The good news of that is that the checklist related to the work and this new, the uneven community is I love that. I love that work. And boy, it's just where you're just enjoying it, that type of thing. That's great work. I love that. And I love the podcast and all this stuff I do. Some of it is other work, but it still keeps you in that constant state of busy all the time. And sometimes the only time we really slow down and process and think and rest and just be is when you're forced to. I didn't bring my laptop up here because this is supposed to be a 30, 45-minute procedure. I thought I'd grab a bite to eat while she was in there, come back, we'd head back home. My mother-in-law came up and we were going to go to lunch together while she was there, trying to help out her a little bit too and that kind of stuff. But it didn't work that way because of the delay. We still got a little food, but we're still waiting. We were still waiting. But I didn't have, I had my phone with me, but I'm not much of a phone person. I mean, technologically, I still can't text very well or anything, but I have my computers when I'm usually doing most of my work, and I didn't bring that up. And so both my wife and I were forced to chill for a while and actually just hang out and chat and even close our eyes for a little bit and let things be. And neither one of us, my wife's work has also been incredibly busy lately. Incredibly busy. So sometimes that's needed, and I think that's needed a lot more often than we allow it to happen, and that is just to stop everything for a little while. Take some deep breaths in. Process what's been going on and what might be coming up, but mostly just be in the now and be in the current moment and just breathe and, even count the ceiling tiles or something, or look at the shadow puppets on the wall caused by an IV stand. Whatever it is that's around you, sometimes it's good to just stop, look, listen, and be. I know I need more of that, and I'm going to try to create more times like that. I think many of you need more of that. I think we all need that sometimes. And maybe I'm going to do that right now. Had a little bit of that waiting for this procedure to start, but my wife's in there right now. And what do? I come out, so right away, I text the family of the update, and I jump on my podcast to talk to you all. Even though I love doing this, and it's actually part of my relaxation, even to a degree. It's also something to do instead of just stopping everything for a little while. So you know what? I'm going to go do that right now. Probably got another 30 minutes till my wife is done with her procedure. I'm going to go back into that waiting room. I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to sit there. No phone. No recorder. Just relax a little bit. Maybe even say a prayer or two. and be in the moment. Be in the moment. Well, hello there. It is the day after the surgery. For my wife's surgery, everything went great, as expected or as hoped for, wished for. Surgery was successful. Her recovery is going quite well. She's starting to be more mobile today, and everything's looking up, and that's been good. That's been really good. Started out this episode talking a little bit about how we have anxiety for not the most serious things that happen in our life and not the most um, minor things that happen in our life, but those medium ones, like a routine surgery or sometimes this that could go bad, but most of the time the odds are definitely in your favor that everything's going to be fine. If things go well, they know what they're doing, and everything turns out good. But as I think about things and sit here in the basement, as I finally got a few minutes to myself to just totally not totally, but start to decompress a bit, I do think about being needed and how it feels good to be needed, and how not only I think we're afraid sometimes to say we need people or to impose on people, but sometimes people also want to be imposed on at times and to be needed. And I think there's something to that. And it's not always easy to know the answer, but I think it's good to consider that as somebody asks, can I help? When somebody reaches out and says, can I help? Today, my wife's sister came over, spent the day with her as I was working, and I had to record an interview for the podcast and do some other things. And so while I was doing that, she hung out with her sister, and it was great because not only did her sister feel needed, but also they got a chance to catch up and talk for several hours, which they haven't done in a long time, and just kind of veg and hang out together as sisters. And I think that was really good. And then her mom also was asked to come over tomorrow to help, and it's like my wife's become pretty mobile and can do things, and there's really no need. But sometimes it is a little bit of help and can help do a few things around here. And I got, again, 3 more meetings tomorrow and a lot of work to do. So it does take the load off me a little bit. And I know she wants to be part of this. She wants to be down here helping out her daughter and be part of that. And sometimes it's okay to say, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And to be grateful. Because it is good to be needed. I've been needed by my wife lately. I was able to come through for her. I was able to be there for her. I was able to get things for her. I was able to do things, and that feels good. There's a positive piece of that, and I think that's something we all should keep in mind. I do think we all focus on ourselves a lot. I know I do. I know many people do, especially people with anxiety, because we're so worried about so many things happening. We almost have to get in that mode of focus on ourselves and thinking about, what could happen and how we're going to work through it and what's going to happen if I don't, and then this will happen and that'll happen, and your fears run amok and you get caught there. But when we start to think about others, when we start to do things for others, when we start to see their problems instead of ours, our problems lessen a little bit when we do that. Helping out my wife the last couple of days has been good focus for me. Not thinking about my problems or problems that I've had in the past. I'm only thinking about, can I be there for her and what can I do to help her through this time? So maybe it's something to think of going forward. As we started out this episode, it might be good to think about the anxiety that goes into these things and how we manage that and how we deal with it, and maybe be able to look a little beyond and say, hey, these usually turn out really well, and maybe we can focus a little bit on that Instead of what if something goes wrong, asking the question, what if it all goes right? What if this surgery is totally successful and my wife can walk without pain again and we can do more things and maybe even play some pickleball? We got a pickleball place opening up near us, and I played only once or twice, and I think that might be kind of fun to go play that. Maybe get some local neighbors together and we go and play some pickleball. So that'd be great. And lately we've been thinking, maybe she can't do that if we can't get this fixed. So these are the positives things. And to look at these situations and say to yourself, but what if everything goes right? And spend some time there for a while. That doesn't come naturally to us. But spend some time there of what if everything goes right? I think that might be good too. So alleviate the anxiety as much as we can as we face situations like this. And also realize that it's good to be needed and it's okay to be there for other people, and that sometimes takes a focus off ourselves. Hey, I'm going to wrap this up. This one got a little longer, but I'll go tune it up here a little bit, hopefully get it out in the next day. And more to come hopefully soon. I also just recorded a podcast for I just recorded an interview for the Benzo Free podcast. That'll be coming out here in a few days. And things are looking good. If you haven't already, please check us out at uneven.life. Uneven.life is the URL. Check out our new community. Come join us. See what we're up to. It's exciting stuff. We got so many people signing up. We're really building something here, and you get to be part of the beginning of that if you come on right now. So come join us and check it out. And thanks for tuning in. I hope, maybe here's the big hope for these. I hope you're feeling a little better now than you were when we started. Maybe that's the hope for the Uneven podcast. Just closing out with, I hope you feel a little bit better than when we started. Maybe, maybe not. But today, that's what I'm closing out with. Y'all take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, this is Dee. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out our podcast. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. If you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at unevenpodcast.com. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side.